So you need to push through, and that requires self-discipline to follow your script. It's important to remember the connections between your tasks and the goals that they are meant to achieve. When you feel yourself losing sight of that, stop and ask yourself why. Excuse me. Lose sight of the why, and you will surely lose sight of your goal. Hey, how's everybody today? We might put on a little bit of extra light. A little bit darker this morning. Hopefully the sun will come out today. It's been a little bit dark, but it hasn't rained, so that's been good. Not like in the Philippines where my VA has been absolutely flooded recently. So fingers crossed for better weather over here, wherever you are. Okay, but more importantly, let's get into principles. Ray Dalio, everybody's been enjoying it, getting lots of hearts on Bigo, lots of comments. I'll get back to everybody a little later. I might check every once in a while. But let's get into it. I love reading for you. It is hopefully a great motivational start to your day. It gives you something to think about, gives you something to implement, and makes you feel powerful. So we are starting today with 2.5, push through to completion. Part A, great planners who don't execute their plans go nowhere. So yesterday we were talking about designing a plan and how important it is to have a plan. And I wrote down some ideas myself during that time to debrief and plan at the end of every day. So the goal is to see if I can make 5 p.m., 6 p.m., excuse me, shutdown time. And once I shut down, no more work after that. Just relaxation, because the body needs that every once in a while. I'm not good at giving that to myself. But the point being that you want to be able to shut down, but before you shut down, maybe for half an hour, 45 minutes before you shut down, debrief and have a think about what was good during the day, what wasn't so good, what would I change, how can I make it better, where am I always falling short, am I not messaging somebody, or am I just too busy doing all of these other things? So you have the plan, and that's going to be really good at the end of the day before you finish, so that you know what you're going to be doing the day after. But then you want to also make sure that you execute that plan. If you don't execute it, if you have a plan, it's wonderful having a plan, but if you don't actually do anything with it, then what was the point? Seriously, what was the point? So you need to push through, and that requires self-discipline to follow your script. It's important to remember the connections between your tasks and the goals that they are meant to achieve. When you feel yourself losing sight of that, stop and ask yourself why. Excuse me. Lose sight of the why, and you will surely lose sight of your goal. So it makes me think of actors. And for some reason, I was thinking about sitcoms, TV shows, where there's a script and you have to follow the script. Every once in a while, there'll be an actor who will improvise and make it up. And some comedy is just people improvising the whole time. But it's not always funny necessarily, because when you're improvising, you don't know what the outcome will be. Because when you have a script, you already know how the characters are going to interact and what will happen, and you can build in the funny parts. So if a sitcom was run with everybody only improvising, it hasn't been thought through. It would be an absolute mess. The characters wouldn't interact. They might not say the things that they're supposed to say. Somebody might say something that isn't a part of their actual past. So it's really important to have a script. And in our case, our script is our plan. So it's important to have a plan and actually execute on it. Part B, good work habits are vastly underrated. People who push through successfully have to-do lists that are reasonably prioritized, and they make certain each item is ticked off in order. So I've learned to tick things off in order and to actually write a plan that I can follow for the end of the day. Very often I used to still change my plans. It is good to get really good at planning so that you are writing plans that no longer need to change, because you already have a bit of structure and you know what you need to do throughout the day, and everything becomes systemized, as opposed to putting out fires here, putting out fires there, doing everything all over the place, and then not getting that completed because there was a fire. Of course, there are still going to be fires, but it is really good to have a plan that you can follow and that most of your days are going to be orderly, and that the same kinds of things come up. So you set up a business so that it is a system, and every day you're doing the same kind of tasks. Now, obviously, that gets boring, so you can get somebody else to do that, and you can do some of the more exciting things. I always love new impulses, and that's something that I have to control of myself, because, yes, if you're always chasing new impulses, there is no focus on the main thing that needs doing. So know what your main thing is that needs doing, and go and seek impulses after you finish work, perhaps. Part C, establish clear metrics to make certain that you are following your plan. Ideally, someone other than you should be objectively measuring and reporting on your progress. If you're not hitting your targets, that's another problem that needs to be diagnosed and solved. There are many successful, creative people who aren't good at execution. They succeed because they forge symbiotic relationships with highly reliable task doers. Now, this one is very interesting because, again, if you are overweight and you do not measure your weight, then how are you going to know whether you are making progress? And the same applies to business. Very often you'll hear people say, know your numbers, know your numbers, know your numbers. And it's no exaggeration. If you don't know how many people are being called every day, if you don't know how many people are signing up, if you don't know whether that number is going up or down, all of that information is management information that you can use to make adjustments. So if you're only calling 5 people a day, and so you're only making 1 sale per week, if you want 5 sales per week, then you need to multiply the number of calls you're making by 5. If you don't know how many you are making, then you cannot adjust to get the outcome that you want. So really important to make sure that you are measuring the more important things. If you are not sure, make sure you find a mentor or a coach or somebody who can help you to figure out what you need to be measuring. There are spreadsheets that you can use, for example, that I used to have as a business coach, that can actually show you exactly what you need to input into the system. And once you input that in, it will tell you where you need to start making adjustments. So make sure you have something like that. Don't have to reinvent the wheel. Don't have to make one. There are plenty of them out there. Reach out if you are a business owner and you need some assistance with that and you don't have one. I can perhaps help you with that one. Just need to dig through the archives a little bit from when I used to have those. Okay, that's all there is to it. Remember that all 5 steps proceed from your values. Your values determine what you want. For example, your goals. Also keep in mind that the 5 steps are iterative. When you complete 1 step, you will have acquired information that will most likely lead you to modify the other steps. When you've completed all 5, you'll start again and with a new goal. If the process is working, your goals will change more slowly than your designs, which will change more slowly than your tasks. One last important point. You will need to synthesize and shape well. The first 3 steps, setting goals, identifying problems, and then diagnosing them. Synthesizing, by which I mean knowing where you want to go and what's really going on. Designing solutions and making sure that the designs are implemented are shaping. And this is so important as well. So if I drop you in London and I give you a map of Paris and ask you to go to, I don't know, I've never been to London, and I ask you to go to Buckingham Palace and I drop you off somewhere totally different, you're not going to be able to get there with that map. And it's the same if in your life you don't know what your goal is. If you don't know what your goal is, how are you going to be able to make a plan to get there? How is Google going to be able to tell you how to get to where you want to go if you cannot type in the goal? If you don't know the address of where you're going, then Google cannot get you there. And it's the same with your life. So make sure that you know what you want in life. Make sure that you know whether it's ethical and you feel aligned with it. So if you really want a Ferrari, put down, I want a Ferrari, and not, I want to solve world hunger. If that is not something that really interests you, I'm sure there are other people that might be able to do something around that. We need to find what we are really aligned with and go after that. And there are people who can help you with that as well. A lot of us have bought into what society tells us we need to do. And you need to be able to learn to let go of that and find what is deep within of yourself. When you do that, it is going to be so much better because it makes the path so much smoother. Okay, 2.6. Remember that weaknesses don't matter if you find solutions. Yes, I was actually thinking of this yesterday. I'm thinking of doing a Facebook Live later on today because there's a lot of information about Elon Musk buying Twitter and how it's a distraction from him running Tesla and SpaceX and all the other things that he does in the Boring Company. And yet, I think that the people who write these articles in the newspaper don't understand how business can work. So obviously, Elon Musk does put some time and effort into each of his businesses. And yes, he will sell some of his Tesla shares in order to be able to buy Twitter. But he does have a lot of money, so it doesn't really have to be an issue in that sense. And it is his money, and he's allowed to do with it what he wants. And yes, it might drop the prices of Tesla shares. That's actually good for people that want to buy into Tesla. It's not good for the people that already own the Tesla shares. But Elon Musk doesn't have to run everything. And obviously, he has 3 businesses. He's not going to be running everything. But having said that, he has plenty of money to be able to hire really good managers that can do it for him. So I'm very surprised that they say that it is a distraction that's going to take him away from Tesla. He's probably not doing that much for Tesla anyway, because he can't spend 100% of his time on Tesla and 100% of his time on SpaceX and 100% of his time on the Boring Company anyhow. Bob Proctor, who many of you may know, was once asked by one of my mentors, how many businesses do you own? And he said he owned 250. Now, my mentor learned at that point in time that you can run a business without being the actual person running it. So if you have a business that you buy that's already under management, or you put it under management, as long as it's still making money with a manager inside. For example, my cafe, that was a little bit more challenging. We were working on that, and we had a manager for part of the time. But we couldn't afford when we first started to have a manager because we weren't making enough. So we had to increase the revenue in order to be able to get a manager. But once you had that manager, you can now run unlimited companies as long as you have a manager for each one. And you don't have to be busy with the day-to-day operations. You can just get a report at the end of the week like Bob Proctor did, and it will tell you which companies are doing well and which ones aren't. And then he can go in and have a talk to the manager to see why things aren't going well. And if the manager can explain himself, all good and well. And if the manager can't explain himself, then they can make adjustments and fix it, or they can replace the manager with somebody that can grow the business. So yes, I will do a Facebook Live about that later on because I think it is a fascinating topic. And it's always interesting how the people who write the articles, the journalists in the newspapers, obviously don't own businesses, but are very critical of business owners. Oh, wow. That was only the title of the chapter of that section, and we've already been talking about it for about 2 or 3 minutes. You almost certainly can't do all these steps well because each requires different types of thinking, and virtually nobody can think well in all these ways. For example, goal setting, such as determining what you want your life to be, requires you to be good at higher level thinking, like visualization and prioritization. Identifying and not tolerating problems requires you to be perceptive and good at synthesis and maintaining high standards. Diagnosis requires you to be logical, able to see multiple possibilities, and willing to have hard conversations with others. Designing requires visualization and practicality. Doing what you set out to do requires self-discipline, good work habits, and a results orientation. Who do you know who has all these qualities? Probably no one. Yet doing all 5 steps well is required for being really successful. So what do? First and foremost, have humility so you can get what you need from others. Okay, I'd love to have a very quick deep dive into this. So very often, we go through life based on how we see everybody else going through life, which is complaining, having issues, wanting things from people. I used to go to a lot of networking events, and at every networking event, everybody was there to sell something. And yet, when two people are talking, person A is looking to sell things, and person B is looking to sell things. So when they're talking together, all they're doing is they're just looking to sell to each other. Nobody's actually listening to the other. Nobody's building a relationship. And who knows? Person A may not need what person B needs, or what person B is selling. So it is really fascinating to look at it from that perspective. Whereas if you build a relationship, person A might not need what person B is selling, but they might know somebody else who needs what person B is selling. When I had my cafe, I used to have a phone call every single day from a guy who, and I didn't know whether it was him or not because it was a landline. And I'd pick up, and every single time it was the same guy who was selling ink for printers. And I didn't have a printer. And he would just start and sell me on the idea that I needed to buy printer ink from him because he had such a great discount. But I don't have a printer. So what am I going to do with the ink? Put it up on the wall as a trophy or hang it up on the wall as art or something? Very, very interesting that he was just that mentality. Now, if he would have built a relationship with me, he could have asked me if I knew anybody that did need ink. And if I liked the guy, then I might have done it for him. So very often we, as humans, we don't really have a lot of humility. We want to be able to understand and be understanding of other people. And the more we can do that, the more that they like us and will want to work with us and do different things. It gives us so many more chances to achieve success in our lives. So it's extremely important to understand psychology, understand people, and to work with people, not against people. Because when we work with people, we can achieve so many more results. Because other animals don't really work together very well because they can't communicate in the same way. They don't have the same abilities that we do. We form tribes in ways that allow us to work together, unlike any other animal, which has allowed us to evolve in so much more broad terms. So it's really amazing to see the lack of humility in the world very often. So, yeah, it's always surprising to me because humility got us to where we are, but now we don't have a lot of humility, which is really, really interesting. So something to keep in mind and have a think about. Everyone has weaknesses. They are generally revealed in the patterns of mistakes they make. Knowing what your weaknesses are and staring at them is the first step on the path to success. We will leave it there and we will continue with the dot points of this section. Remember that weaknesses don't matter if you find solutions. I want to say thank you for being here. Go out and have an absolutely amazing day today. If you are enjoying this reading, you can see the other recordings of this book. So you can start from the beginning and make your way through if you're just new. Or you can watch the other books that we've read, The Art of Thinking Clearly and Rich Dad Poor Dad. They are all on the YouTube, the Passive Cashflow Club, and we'd love to see you there. And yes, make sure you hit subscribe because we are also putting new videos up with questions and answers. And these are your questions. So really appreciate everybody that's sending questions through. I've been making videos answering those. I think last week I made 14 new videos with questions and answers. So make sure you hit subscribe because it will let you know when the new videos are coming up so that you can then see whether one of your questions has been answered. And if it's not your question, it might be a question that still relates to something that you are challenged by, and then you'll have a solution to it, or your question will be answered. Also, if you'd like to ask a question, make sure you reach out on Instagram. You can find me at business_team_6_official. I would love to get to know more of you. It is absolutely amazing having all of you here. I know that I don't always have time to go through the big O, but I appreciate Mustafa sent some hearts and lots of other people have been joining. Rondo sent some faces. Julie Ria sent some hearts. Jean, I'm going to struggle with that last name. Looks Polish, I think. Sent some hearts. Ilshid sent some hearts. Lots of amazing people. Young God, good to see you again. You are there very, very often. Love having you. Lots of hearts from you. Thank you as well. Effing News, lots of hearts. So great to have you all join, and everybody that's on the Zoom and on the recording, obviously. Now, we also have life simulations and cash flow simulations and different other things that we do in the Sydney Cashflow Club. And yeah, hopefully we're going to go out and expand even beyond Sydney now. We are doing some new things, marketing and other wise related, which is extremely exciting. And we're starting to put together packages to help you bridge the gap from either investing in your small way and helping you to expand into bigger things, just like I have been doing over the last number of years. And we're also looking to help people who are just starting out. So we'll show you how the simulation and the game works so that you can figure that out. And then once you have the strategies in the game, a lot of people are afraid to actually take the first step in real life. So we're also helping you bridge the gap to actually start taking the first steps in life, which is extremely exciting. So if you want to improve your investing, if you want to get started with investing, learn first and then take it into real life, which is something that a lot of people never do. Some people never do this. But most people that attend, they end up taking the information and we will guide them and help them, and they actually implement. We had one lady that used to come and she said, I can't afford property. Property is impossible for me. And I got her to play in a certain way. And the lessons that she learned from that were unbelievable. And she started seeing opportunities in her real life. And she started to make some extra money here. And then she ended up buying a property. And then she started buying a second property. I need to get in touch with Helen. I haven't spoken to her in a while. Let me write that down. Always write down your ideas. Very, very important. And so you can do the same things that she did. If you want to start investing or get better at your investing, then come along and you will learn strategy for improving or strategy for getting started and how the whole thing works in the first place. Because, yes, not everybody knows how the stock market works or real estate works or business works. And there is nothing wrong with that. You all have to start somewhere. So why not come and join us? And if you are interested, send me a message on Instagram, business_team_6_official. And I would love to get my VA to send you the information and have a conversation with you and actually get to know you. So feel free to reach out. So thank you so much for joining. I'm going to stop the recording. I'll quickly go through and say thank you again to everybody on Bigo. Have an amazing day today, and I am looking forward to seeing you all again tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow is Friday for another reading, Sydney time, 8 a.m. And remember to make the switch to unlock your rich, because you can keep doing everything the same way you've always done it, you're going to get the same result. So make that switch and you'll unlock your rich, not only in finances, but in relationships, in health, in every area of your life.